Hello, I'm Harold Robertson. You know, we don't have to just let the future happen to us. We can work together to create what we want. So, thank you for joining in on a community conversation about Shoreline. Let's start out with an important question. What is the community of Shoreline like today? Well, Seattle Magazine in July 2008 ranked Shoreline as the #1 best place to live in the greater Seattle area. Why is that? Shoreline has excellent parks, respected schools, and strong neighborhoods. And Shoreline residents agree. The city's recent survey shows that 93% of residents think that Shoreline is a great place to live. Think about what Shoreline will be like in 20 years. What do you want it to be? What is your vision for the future? As part of these Shoreline community conversations, you will have the chance to answer these questions and describe the future that you want for Shoreline. What we do know about the future of our city is that it's going to change. To get a sense of how much can happen in 20 years, let's look back at the year 1988.
And that's when it hit me. I had absolutely no idea what that meant.
In 1988, the most popular TV shows were The Wonder Years and Family Ties. The Oscar for Best Movie that year went to Empire of the Sun. The starring role was played by child actor Christian Bale.
Now there's a Batman.
Just look at how much Christian Bale has changed in 20 years. In 1988, fax machines were hot in the world of communication. The internet was just a small government project, and the World Wide Web didn't even exist. Can you imagine? No email. 1988 was also the first year that CDs outsold vinyl records. And Betamax finally surrendered to VHS. Nobody had even heard of a DVD.
Huh?
Do you remember the first cell phones? They were as big as a brick and cost $4,000 and didn't even have a music library. Now you can get one of these iPhones for $300 and it'll do everything but make your breakfast. 20 years ago, only 15% of American households had a personal computer. Today, that number is over 70%. That's a lot of change. As for Shoreline, remember the old Aurora Village Mall? It even had a Frederick and Nelson. That mall's been replaced now by Costco, Kinko's, and Home Depot. Of course, I-5 was already here in 1988, and it carried only about 80% of today's traffic volume. Aurora Avenue North, of course, was also here, but it looked very different than it does today. There were 47,000 people living in Shoreline in 1988, while today we have just over 53,000. Shoreline schools, fire department, and utility districts were up and running in 1988, but we still had to go to downtown Seattle for other services, like a building permit. Shoreline citizens wanted those services to be provided locally. So in 1995, Shoreline officially incorporated as a city. Some argue that we'll experience even more change in the next 20 years than we've experienced in the last 20. Let's talk a little bit about what that might look like. For example, 70% of the buildings that are here now will still be here in 2028, but that means that 30% will be new. It's helpful to frame our thinking about the future around 3 questions. What is probable? What is possible? And what is preferred? We expect there to be 1 million more people in the Puget Sound region by 2028, bringing the population to 4.5 million. So it's probable to think that Shoreline's population could grow by another 10,000 by that time. As a population, we'll be older then. Nearly 25% of people will be over the age of 65, and life expectancy may continue to rise. As the population ages and household sizes decrease, we can expect to see an increase in the number, form, and density of housing choices. We can expect to add about 5,000 more dwellings in the next 20 years. Most neighborhoods will probably look much like they do today, since most current houses will still be here in 2028. One visible difference in our neighborhoods might be changes made to homes to incorporate alternative energy sources or green practices. This could include rooftop solar panels and even small wind turbines as people get off the power grid. The character of neighborhoods will also be greener, as meandering walkways and drainage swales supplant the traditional sidewalk, curb, and gutter. We'll see greater numbers of trees, backyard greenhouses, and gardens as some families seek to live sustainably. Let's face it, in 2028, we'll still be driving cars, but they'll be very different. While hybrids are important now, technology will change in ways we can't even imagine. Also, Shoreline citizens will have more transportation options. Bus rapid transit along Aurora Avenue, more extensive bike trails, and maybe even light rail along Interstate 5. All households are likely to have wireless internet access,
Call Heather.
Calling Heather.
voice-activated and touch technologies, and interactive visual, maybe even holographic communication systems.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
These technological advances will further people's ability to work from home. These are just a few of the possibilities. You can probably think of many more, so let your imagination go. Be creative, but also realistic. While there may be a moon base in 2028, we probably won't be living there. Remember, your key job in these conversations is not to make guesses about what Shoreline might look like, but rather to say what you want Shoreline to look like and how you want it to work. One good way to do this is to imagine that it is now the year 2028, and Shoreline has become exactly the community you want it to be. Imagine that the housing and neighborhoods, the transportation, the roads, the government, the schools, the parks and trails, everything that is Shoreline are just as you wish them to be. Here are the 3 key questions we'd like you to consider. Number 1, how do you think our lives will change over the next 20 years? 2, what do you like best about Shoreline that you would like to see continued? And 3, what do you like least that you would not like to see continued in the future? I'm Harold Robertson. On behalf of the City of Shoreline, thank you for being part of this community conversation. And now good luck and have fun. Remember, the future is something that together we can shape. Let's create a shared vision of Shoreline's future.